I have a really special guest today, Hillel Fuld.
Nothing so special, but my mom tells me I'm special.
A startup advisor, blogger, vlogger, entrepreneur, and recently, since the beginning of the war, you've been a huge advocate for Israel. Thank you so much for coming.
Absolutely.
How cool is this? This is so cool.
This is a cool studio. I mean, I'm impressed. I want to make one of these in my house.
Hi, and welcome to the Dayna Show, where we discuss in English day-to-day life of Israeli citizens, our concerns and aspirations for the country, and everything in between. I'm your host, Dayna Kaplan, and we're so glad that you could join us.
At the beginning of every one of my shows, I bring up the issue of the hostages, and I say that we still have hostages in Gaza, and we pray every day for their safe return.
Yeah.
My first two questions that I have for you. Aleph. How do you fit everything into your schedule?
I'm very, very efficient with time. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like, I should one day maybe document this, but I basically have like an entire operating system of time hacks. Right? I can give you 50 examples, but I'll give you one basic example. Are you iPhone or Android?
Android.
Okay, no one's perfect. So, whatever. I'll tell you on iPhone, but
I don't care.
It's like a religion, huh?
Yeah, I don't care.
The truth is, I'm not kidding. I might actually be switching to Android. I just got this new phone yesterday that is just bonkers. But okay, focus, Hillel, ADHD.
If you need some Ritalin, I am.
It's all good. I actually want to try Ritalin. I never tried it. But anyway.
Another one of
I'll
those.
just give you one example.
Okay.
One example, but there are many, but I'll give you one example. So on iPhone, there's a feature called text replacement. Mm-hmm. On Android, it's called personal dictionary. Okay, it's the same concept. What is it? Basically, what you do is you set up a shortcut that when it could be a letter, it could be a word, it could be 3 letters, whatever it is. When you write that shortcut, it automatically fills in either a word or a sentence or a paragraph. So, for example, someone says to me, "Hey, follow you, love to meet you. Can we set up a time to talk?" So instead of me saying, "Okay, yeah, do me a favor, tell me your schedule," I have a shortcut where I literally write email with an extra L. Which is important, because otherwise, when I write the word email, it will fill it in. We write email all the time, so it's something that I wouldn't write normally, right? So I write email with another L, and then it fills an entire paragraph. Sure, happy to meet, sounds like you're doing great stuff, love to meet you, send me an email, and it's the whole thing. So when I write that 50 times a day, instead of spending 2 minutes on it, I spend 4 seconds on it. So I'm able to send out, 100 times more. That's just one example. I have literally, I can show you the list. I have a list of about anywhere between 50 and 60 shortcuts. So, for example, if someone wants an introduction to someone, like a business introduction, they say, "Hey, Hillel, I know you know David, I'd love an intro." So now what I need to say to them is, okay, send me an email with the context of why you want that intro. I'll forward it to David. I'll say, "David, can I introduce you?" If he says yes, I'll introduce you, right? Now, just to explain that mechanism to them, take me, 40 seconds to write it, set up a shortcut. So I can do that 100 times a day. It saves me endless time.
What time does your day start? Do you go to Minyan every day?
Oh, you're like, this is salt on the wounds. I don't. No, so usually, it's, by the way, I don't know how personal we're going to get, but that's one of my biggest, not that specifically, but God is one of my biggest challenges in life. But
really?
Yeah, we can talk about that if you want. But usually my wife's alarm clock goes off at 6 o'clock in the morning. We chill out a little bit. We switch days, who's going to make coffee. So we have coffee in bed, and then we play a little Wordle. And then I'm usually out of bed by, like, let's say, on a normal day. Right? There are days that I'm just in bed working till I don't know when. But like on a normal day, I'd say I'm out of bed by 7, daven, pray, and then.
When is the first time that you open your phone?
Oh, right away.
Really? You wake up, it's
away.
right by your bedside table?
Because I have anywhere between, if I'm being conservative, 400 notifications to 4,000. And the anxiety I have to clean out my inbox, because I've got to get rid of it.
Do you feel exhausted at the end of the day? What time does your day end?
It really depends on the day, but also you have to understand the nature of my work is not like I sit in an office. Like, I'm meeting people all the time. It's doing Zooms, podcasts, whatever. On occasion I do podcasts, let's say at 8:30 at night because of the time zones. But generally speaking, I don't book things after 8 o'clock. I'm usually chilling with the wife, watching Netflix by 8:30.
Really?
9. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
But yeah, it's a long day. But listen, put aside for 1 second the post-October 7th era. Let's talk about what for the last 15 years. Again, I would sit in cafes, meet people, do a little writing, which I love doing. So nothing really that I did on a daily basis was, let's say, very energy consuming. So I wasn't really tired at the end of the day, but it depends on the day.
Do you love Shabbos? Shabbat? Do you like to disconnect from your phone and from social media?
I know you're looking for a yes or no answer, but there's no yes or no answer to that. I think...
Do you miss it?
No, so I'll tell you. So first of all, I think I would absolutely, legitimately go nuts if I didn't have Shabbos. Like, I would lose my mind, right? Because I'm like all day, right? So it's definitely good for my soul to be disconnected. So it's definitely good to disconnect. And, spend time with family. Like, it's nice, right? But I'm not going to pretend that, the anxiety of what's going to be when I get back, either because of just news in general, but more because I literally have to spend, I don't know, an hour and a half on my inbox on Saturday. I have like 4,000 notifications. I need to get through them. So that anxiety kills me. Like by the end of Shabbos, my hands are shaking, But no, it's definitely good. At the end, net positive. Let's just say that there's a lot more good in Shabbos than there is bad for me. But yeah, there are anxieties for sure.
I feel like as I get older, obviously I'm not in the same position as you, but as I get older, I appreciate Shabbat even more. As soon as I turn off my phone, I feel like this calmness going over me. And I'm not religious, okay? But I still, I've started to chazek a little bit because I realized that, especially Shabbat, it's for us. It's for you,
100%, 100%. By the way, that's, again, I don't know if you want to get into this, but that's something that's, I think, a misconception about Torah and religion in general. It's like God doesn't need us to do this stuff. It's not for him. It's for us, right?
Exactly.
Interesting topic. Okay, anyway.
Tell me a little bit about where you were born, your Jewish education, and what was the catalyst to moving to Israel?
So first of all, I didn't come here alone. I came with my family, but let's rewind. So I grew up in, I didn't grow up, but I was born in Queens, New York, to a very, very Zionist family, right? Both my parents are Jewish educators. My dad's kind of a pioneer in Jewish education because he was the principal of a school called SAR. Mm-hmm. You know SAR? So
yes.
Those that might not know, SAR is a school in Riverdale in the Bronx that has no walls. Do you know that?
No.
It has no walls.
No.
Yeah, the concept, basically there's a structure on the outside, but let's say first grade is class 1, class 2, and I could hear the other teacher, open. The concept was if you teach kids that they can concentrate despite background noise, they grow up healthy. But if you teach them you need absolute silence to concentrate, they grow up with ADHD. Anyway, the school was awarded top 3 schools in America. It's a revolution. So my dad was the first principal there, and he was just very a visionary. And when I was in 6th grade, my dad got a sabbatical, so we were here for the year in Israel, and I picked up the language, whatever, and then his contract said that after we get back to America, he has to continue being principal for 3 years. 3 years, on the day, we were on the plane. So I came here when I was 15, which is not an easy age.
Wow.
But I guess fast forward,
Where did you guys move to? Where was the first place?
Jerusalem.
Okay.
But I'll just say, fast forward 30 years, it's the best thing that ever happened to me. We're living the dream here. We could talk about that. I mean, literally, we're living. I'm not talking about spirituality. We are living the dream here. The misconception that you come to Israel, you have to lower your quality of life. BS. That was once the case, not at all the case anymore. We could talk about that. But so I came with my family and we moved to Jerusalem, to the German colony. Literally a soft landing. I didn't. Again, I was in high school, but I don't think my parents would say that they lowered their quality of life. Living the dream, really.
My last guest, Joel Haber, said it was the best decision he's ever made to live here.
Smiling Joe, what's he called?
Yeah, Fun Joel.
Fun Joel. Yeah.
Which was crazy because most people are it's so hard here. He's everything in my life improved when I moved here.
How controversial can I get on this podcast?
You can get as controversial as you want.
So I'm going to say something that is controversial and it's going to piss off a lot of people, but I firmly believe this.
Okay.
In 2025, if you come to Israel and can't make it, you didn't want it badly enough. There is no excuse, not from an educational perspective for your kids, not from a livelihood perspective of getting a job and there's no reason. And I don't care if you're religious or not religious. There is no excuse, in my opinion, in 2025 to say, I can't make it in Israel. That's just not true. I mean, again, if you're good at what you do, and I don't care what you do, with few exceptions. Meaning if you're a doctor in America, you're gonna make more money there. There's no question. But 99% of professions, if you're good at what you do and you're willing to work hard, you can not only make as much money, you can make more money in Israel. I firmly believe that.
Really?
But a lot of people, again, sorry for offending people, but this is our story, the Jewish people's story. It's we always have the excuses. You want to get into this?
Yeah,
all right, let's get into it.
So
the war has opened up my mind a lot to the Bible, but not from a religious perspective, from a theological, historic perspective, that I just have a different perspective on many of the stories that we learned in the Torah. And one of the things that I've been paying a lot of attention to are narratives, okay? And I'm going to give you 2 examples, and then I'll tell you where I'm going with this. We're now reading, like literally now, the Torah portions of the Israelites. And they're called the Israelites because they weren't Jewish yet. We didn't get the Torah at Mount Sinai. The Israelites were slaves in Egypt for 210 years. And, torture, like full-blown just torture, persecution and torture. And God comes and says to Moses, take them out, right? Let my people go, right? And he comes in, he performs these 10 plagues, like unbelievable miracles. And he says to the Israelites, let's go, get out. People don't realize this. 80% stayed back. Like, what? Like, okay, so I knew that my whole life, but I never really thought about that. What was their narrative? What they tell themselves? Meaning, they're being persecuted, they're slaves, tortured. Why would they stay? Okay? Question number 1. Question number 2, famous story about the spies, right? They're in the desert. God's like, go into Israel. Like, we'll send spies. So they send 12 of the heads of the tribes, meaning 12 of the most important people in that generation, 12 of the biggest rabbis. 10 of them famously come back and say bad things about Israel. And again, I learned this story my whole life. I never asked myself, what was their narrative? We just accept it. Like, oh yeah, 10 of the biggest rabbis contradicted God and said, no, don't go into Israel. What was their narrative? So I've been thinking about this a lot.
Also with Bavel, if I might interject.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So it's exactly where I'm going with this. So what were their narratives? So I think, the Israelites in Egypt, their narrative was very clear. They're in Egypt, and all of a sudden this Moses dude is like, come get out of here, go wander in the desert. They're like, I was born here. I'm Egyptian. My parents were born here. My grandparents were born here. Land of milk and honey. I'm going to stay here. But you're like, you're slaves. Yeah, but I have roof over my head, food on the table. I'm good. I'm Egyptian. I'm going to stay here. It's a lot more comfortable. Narrative number 1. Narrative number 2. These spies, right? What were they telling themselves? How did they? Well, it's so obvious. Again, I never thought about it, but it's so obvious. They're in the desert. They get food directly from God, right? They have clouds of glory surrounding them. They're literally a direct line of communication with God, like direct, right? So these big 10 rabbis, their narrative was, go into Israel and build an economy, an army. I'm going to stay in the desert and be a lot more religious, right? I'm connected with God here. I'm going to stay here and be more religious. So 1, comfort, 2, religion. Those are their 2 narratives. What are the narratives of American Jews today? 1 is comfortable. I can't come there. I'm not going to make enough money. I'm good here in the 5 towns. We should stay here. They have all excuses in the book. You need American Jewry. No, we do not need American Jewry. Stop making excuses. So 1 is comfort, right? Exactly like in Egypt. And the second one is the more religious crowd, right? The more black and white, right? What do they say? And I cannot even tell you. This infuriates me when they say this to me. I'll tell you a quick story. I was at someone's house maybe a year and a half ago, like a much more religious couple. He's a chef. He invited me over, whatever. And so we're having this conversation about Zionism. And the wife looks at me and she says, what, you think all Jews belong in Israel? And I'm like, what the hell does that even mean? You think all Jews should keep kosher? Like, some people don't keep kosher, that's fine. But if you're an observant Jew who cares about God and the Torah, then yeah, you should live in Israel. It's kind of like a mitzvah in the Torah to live in Israel, right? So what does she say to me? And I'm telling you, I blew my lid. She's like, but my kid's going to go off the derech. What does that mean? My kid's going to be less religious if I come to Israel, because here I am in my little ghetto in Borough Park or wherever. I'm going to come to Israel. My kids are going to be exposed to secular Jews, and God forbid they'll get an earring. I was like, do you hear what you're saying? You're saying to me that God's telling you to do something, but you're going to ignore God so you can be more religious? Do you even hear yourself? That is insane. So you want to make excuses? Fine, but say what it is. You do not want to come to Israel. And now you're finding justifications, right? That is what the Israelites did in Egypt, and that is what the Israelites did in the desert. It's the same narratives. And then they find all these excuses. Well, you don't think you need American Jews to lobby on your behalf? Oh, if we all come to Israel, we're going to be an easy target. They have all the excuses in the book. The reality, you come to Israel today, you will live the best life both as an individual, as a person, but also as a Jew, because living in Israel today, forget spirituality, from a materialistic perspective, is a dream come true.
100%. I agree with you 100%. And it takes us a while to actually accept that here, because we're being hit by so many different things.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, the truth comes out. Like, it's just that every one of us knows at the end of the day, this is the place that we're supposed to be.
Right. And then they say to me like, oh, but you talk about anti-Semitism in America, but you have bombs and rockets falling in Israel, which is true. But let's not mix things up here. Let's not get confused, okay? There's a very, very big difference between a mission that fails, AKA the IDF failed on October 7th, but that doesn't mean they don't have a mission. Their mission, their existence, the IDF, is to protect me and you. That's their job. Now, they failed. On October 7th, they failed. There's no sugarcoating that. But in America or Canada or Australia, there is no mission. No one cares about your safety. And this isn't like rhetoric. We see what's happening, right? There is no mission. And, in Israel, we know who our enemies are. And in Israel, we decide how to retaliate. In America, you're at the mercy of a foreign government, and we've seen time and time again, in every generation, what happens when we're at the mercy of a foreign government. So what do these, excuse me for saying, stupid Jews outside of Israel, what do they say? It won't happen here. This isn't Germany. So
it's so happening.
But like, okay,
it's so happening.
But forget,
right.
like, I say to them, because I want you to verbalize what you're saying right now. Say it out loud. In every generation, in every empire, in the history of the world, the Jews were persecuted and exiled, but it won't happen today. Like, do you hear what you're saying? Do you understand how idiotic that is? Of course it's going to happen. It's already happening. What are you waiting for? And I wish I would have asked my grandmother, when they legislated the Nuremberg laws, why didn't you get out? What were you thinking was going to happen? And I didn't have an answer to that question my entire life until now. What are you guys waiting for? Like, if I put a gun to your head, you'd get on a plane, right? So what does a gun mean? What constitutes a gun? Because there are anti-Semites in Congress, schools are being vandalized, windows are being shattered, academic institutions are not letting Jews walk around freely, Jews are being harassed and assaulted and murdered in the streets, beaten half to death, and Jews are like, it doesn't affect me. Are you insane?
Israel is the microcosm of the Jewish world. We're the nucleus here of the Jewish world. Everything that happens here spurts out into the rest of the world.
100%.
Why would someone want to invest in the United States or in Canada when they can invest in their own faith, in their own religion, in their own soul?
Yeah.
And that's what we are.
Let me tell you a quick story.
Go for it.
About a year ago, I'm on the phone with a couple who was, I don't remember where they live, somewhere like random in America, not one of the Jewish centers. He's Israeli originally, she's American. His dad is a famous psychologist in Israel. And he tells me on the phone, the son, the husband, says to me on the phone, my dad's been telling me for years, we need to make Aliyah, we need to come to Israel, it's important, blah, blah, blah. And then October 7th happened, and his father, who's a psychologist, said to him, if you come to Israel now with your kids, you're going to cause them psychological damage.
I heard the story that you said.
I was like, are you, and so I'm just going to repeat it. I said to him, you think that staying outside of Israel right now, you're doing that for your kids? You think your kids are going to grow up and say, Dad, thank you so much for leaving us in America when our brothers and sisters were fighting an existential war? You are sorely mistaken. Your kids are going to look at you with disgust and contempt, and they're going to say, why the hell didn't you join? They needed us over there, and you abandoned them because you wanted to live in your fancy house and drive your BMW? Are you insane? So, again, they have all the excuses in the book. Like, if I want to sell Aliyah, right? I don't think anti-Semitism is the reason to come, right? But it is a nice trigger, right? Now's the time, right? I think that life in Israel is just unbelievable. And really, it doesn't matter. Are you religious? Then there's a religious aspect. Like literally, except for Maimonides, every single commentary on the Torah says it's one of the 613 mitzvot. One of the 600, literally like keeping Shabbat, keeping kosher, coming to Israel. That's a mitzvah. The Rambam doesn't list it, but he, of course, believes it's a mitzvah. He believes it's an underlying mitzvah. It's not like just counted. You know what I'm saying? But the Ramban says, as a religious Jew, what you do in America is practice. You're not even doing the mitzvah. You're not even keeping the Torah. You could be the biggest black hat, Streimel, Hasidic Jew. You're not keeping the Torah. You are practicing to keep the Torah, but you're not keeping the Torah. Like, so from a religious perspective, there's no question. We all pray to Jerusalem every day. And I'll tell you something else. I'm getting like all fired up here.
Hell, you're like,
I'm so passionate about it because it drives me crazy. It drives me crazy. Like,
dude, do you ever chill?
And when it comes to Israel, it really drives me crazy.
Okay.
Now I forgot what I was going to say.
I'm sorry.
It's
my fault.
It was important. Hold on. Oh, man. Well, it'll come back to me. But my point is, no matter how you look at this, the reality is that there really is no place anymore, in my opinion, for a Jew to live outside of Israel, with exceptions, right? If someone has elderly parents, they want to, stay till, fine, I get it. But at least recognize that this is your end game. Like to say that like your home I heard a rabbi say it like this, and I think it's brilliant. He said, Jews outside of Israel are on a business trip, right? We're on a business trip. On a business trip, you get a nice car, you rent a car, you get a nice hotel, you're living the life. It's great, but you realize you're going back, you're going home, right? You're on a business trip right now, and you could live super well in New York, in Florida, or wherever, but know that you're on a business trip. Like, don't get confused that this is your home. But unfortunately, again, like Israelites in Egypt, people are getting comfortable. It's very sad.
I have a confession to make. I want to switch gears a little bit, if you don't mind. Do you believe in manifestation and things like that?
Think about things that manifest?
Yeah.
I can't say if I believe or if I don't believe because I'm not that familiar with it.
Fine. I manifested our meeting here today.
Tell me more.
About 2 weeks ago, when the hostage deal became publicized on the news and we saw all the conditions, I had so much inner turmoil, and I was, like everyone, the dissonance, the confusion, what about the hostages, releasing the prisoners? My mind went straight to Ari. And by the way, this podcast is dedicated in his honor. And I thought about him right away. And then for some reason, I had a vision of us sitting here and talking about it. Cool. I really wanted to discuss with you the hostage deal, what your take was on it, because, you know, all of us living in Israel are affected by it with the release of murderers.
Yeah, monsters.
But you were directly affected by it because your brother, unfortunately, was tragically killed by a Palestinian terrorist. He was stabbed by a Palestinian terrorist. And I wanted to get your take. Maybe you could shed some hope on it. Maybe you can give me your impression of.
Sure.
Of
So first of all, Ari was my older brother. We were 5 boys. He was one above me in the lineup, and he was a strong Israel advocate, fighting for Israel and the Jewish people, online, offline, every day. That's what he dedicated his life to. And 6 years ago, he was walking in his town outside of Jerusalem, and a Palestinian kid. And I have to emphasize that. I emphasize it all the time. It's important to emphasize. You say a Palestinian terrorist. Yes, he was a terrorist. He was a kid. He wasn't a Hamas terrorist. He lacked nothing in life. There was no oppression. There was no occupation. He lived in Israel. He had everything he wanted in life. Just for those narratives that like, oh, stop oppressing them and they'll stop, BS, right? He was missing nothing. And so he came from behind.
Do you think he knew who Ari was?
No.
Okay.
And there are people that I don't believe that.
Okay.
If it was a Hamas terrorist, maybe. He was a kid.
Okay.
So he came from behind, like they often, do in terms of just being cowardly. And he stabbed Ari in the main artery in his neck. At which point Ari had no blood in his veins. He was dead. Like he was medically just dead. Somehow, miraculously, and I mean that quite literally, miraculously he was able to chase down the terrorist, jump over a wall, and shoot him when he was just inches away from his next victim, a woman named Hillel, who had a falafel stand there, and she had just served the terrorist a falafel, not knowing he was a terrorist, obviously. Ari saved her in his last breath, and then he collapsed and died, and he's become a national hero of the state of Israel, and she's become part of the family. And, on a personal level, tremendously tragic, obviously.
Do you remember that day?
So I'll tell you about that in a second. But it's important to say, like, you talked about the dissonance. I think that also, on the one hand, nothing more tragic than that. On the other hand, it's a source of pride. Right? If I told my grandmother that her grandson was a national hero of the state of Israel, she wouldn't even know how to digest that information. So it is a source of pride. As far as me, it was Sunday morning. I was at a startup's office doing my thing. And in between tasks, I just opened up the news, which is one does in Israel. And I saw there was a pigua, there was a terrorist attack in Efrat where Ari lived. And there was a big surveillance video, a big play button. What do you do when you hit a play button? You hit it. So I watched this surveillance video, of course, not knowing that it was my brother, watching this kid come over to this big dude and stab him, and the dude chase him down. And I was like, whoa, this guy's Superman. So I asked in the Fuld family group, is everyone okay? Smiley face, right? I had a little emoji. And my brother Donnie, who's one above Ari, called me and he said, it's him. It's like, it's him who? What the hell are you talking about? Like, anyway, then it, as we say in Hebrew, nafala simon. I got it, and I closed my laptop, got my stuff, ran to Shari Tzedek, to the hospital, and on the way, Donnie called and said, don't rush. So then, I may or may not have screamed a 4-letter word in my car. And then we got to that dreadful, dreadful room in Shari Tzedek Hospital that is designated for families of terror victims who they go there and they gather and, have to tell every family member. And that was about the most traumatic thing of my life, standing in that room and watching his kids come in. We have to tell them. And it was just absolutely terrible. But Ari, you said it, like he impacted your life. You never met him. Thousands of people, maybe more, have said to me, like, he changed my life. And I'm like, oh, you were close? No, I never met him. Oh, so you spoke to him regularly? No, never spoke to him. It's like, what? He impacted millions of lives. And so, in a way, I think that I am kind of channeling Ari's energy on a daily basis now when I fight for Israel. But, his wife is unbelievable, Miriam, and his kids are unbelievable. And my parents are unbelievable. My family's unbelievable. A very strong family.
Were you close with him?
Wow. How dark do we want to get? I don't know if I should say this on the air. He was a big dude. Like, he was a karate guy, 4th degree black belt. He was a hockey player. He was like a big dude. I was his little brother. So.
What's the age difference?
6 years.
Okay.
There was definitely some bullying going on. Okay. But, as we grew older, of course, we worked in kind of parallel universes. In other words, we both worked on social media.
Right.
He worked in advocacy, I worked in tech. But, we as adults, obviously, we were great. But as kids, there was some fighting there.
Has your impression of Israel's security changed since he was killed? Meaning, before were you right wing and then you turn left wing, or left wing and right wing? Has it lichazek? Has it
No.
strengthened your
I don't think so.
your feelings?
I don't think so. I think it just, like they always say, you're now part of a club no one wants to be part of. But maybe if you followed me on social media, you would see a transformation. And I didn't mean you. I meant if one, sorry, I didn't mean it that way. If one follows me on social media, they would have seen a transformation. Meaning, pre-Ari, I was a tech guy who was promoting Israel through tech. But you rarely see me talk about Israel straight up, right? I didn't talk about the conflict. I was a tech guy. After Ari, I kind of removed the mask halfway, talked more about Israel, but I was still a tech guy. But after October 7th, I just threw the mask out. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. Israel needs me now, and I'm not going to be doing tech right now.
Has his organization, Standing Together, is it still running?
That wasn't his organization.
Not his, but he worked there.
I think it's still running, yeah. But
With David Landau?
Yeah.
Right?
But now there's arifuld.org,
right.
Which, is an unbelievable organization that gives out incredible equipment and everything to soldiers, which was what Ari, again, dedicated his life to. But yeah, listen, even this deal, right? We went out to eat, the whole Fuld family, a week ago, when we found out, instead of staying at home and everyone just being, mourning and being sad about it, let's get together, we got hamburgers in Jerusalem. So we got together, and I think that the consensus was that, our tragedy, the fact that it's quote unquote our terrorist, doesn't change our opinion of the deal. And my opinion on the deal is very nuanced, right? Again, like you said before, it's the dissonance of that. It's a terrible deal. Objectively, a terrible deal. 33 hostages for 1,000 prisoners, terrible. Also beautiful. We're getting our people back. They're reuniting with their families. We all saw that moment, and I'm sure you were crying. I was crying. I was driving, and I was like, tears So, it doesn't get more beautiful and inspiring than that. So it's a beautiful thing for those families and those hostages and for our country. We can't, people can't believe that if they get abducted or kidnapped, that we won't pay whatever price we have to pay to bring them back. Our citizens, our people need to know that.
How do we get out of the loop, though? This is never going to end. And that's what I think the issue is with people who are pro-deal and again, pro-deal and against the deal. If we keep going through this, it's never gonna end.
Right.
How do we cut off this loop? How do we change the cycle?
Right.
And is the answer changing the narrative, right? Is strengthening ourselves through narrative? Is it, like as Trump says, sending all of the Palestinians to different countries? What is the answer so that we don't have to live this way anymore? It shouldn't, after all of these years, we're still in the same mess.
Yeah.
And it's never going to end because they know that we'll pay any price for hostages.
Right.
Right? And as a parent, when you have a child and they misbehave, the more you give in, the more balagan happens. They can't feel like they have the upper hand. How do we change the situation?
So there's an answer to that question on a micro level and a macro level. In the short term, this small level, micro is small, macro is big, right? I always get that mixed up. The micro level.
Tech genius is flustered.
On the micro level, we, of course, again, this deal is far from ideal, right? But I think
it's insane.
You're right. It is insane. But I have to believe that Israel has learned its lesson from October 7th and that we're no longer going to be naive. And so these people that we're releasing, I want to believe that we have a plan in action for what we will do. I can't let myself believe that, 1,000 terrorists are now and they're going to come kill 10,000 Israelis. I can't sleep at night if I believe that. So I want to believe that if we could pull off the beeper operation and the walkie-talkie operation, we know what to do here. And I want to believe that there's more than meets the eye. I want to believe that. Now, if you're asking on a macro level, the conflict, how do we solve that? Again, I don't know how controversial we want to get here, take off the gloves, but, people like to pretend and present this conflict like it's so complicated. It's such a complex thing. No, it's not.
It's not.
Can we just say it as it is? There are human beings who came from Jordan and Egypt, one of them being a man named Yasser Arafat, who was an arch terrorist, who took the word Palestine, which meant Israel historically, and their artifacts and their coins and whatever you want to prove that, and he took that word Palestine and he hijacked it, no pun intended, pun very much intended, because they invented hijacking of planes and whatever, just in case I had to explain that joke. And he took that concept, that word Palestine, applied it to Arabs, to Muslims, when an Arab-Palestinian state never existed in the history of the world. And if you're watching this and that offends you, please tell me when this Arab-Palestinian state was established. Tell me what the national anthem was. Tell me what the currency was. Tell me what the language was. Tell me who the prime minister was. Show me one name of an Arab-Palestinian leader before Yasser Arafat who invented the term in 1964 with the Palestinian Authority, the PLO, that was looking to liberate Palestine, but there was no occupation. So what were they looking to liberate? So let's just say it as it is. The Palestinians, who call themselves Palestinians, are Jordanians and Egyptians who came to Israel, hijacked the word Palestine, decided, and it's in their charter, this isn't my opinion, go read it, that they want to, from the river to the sea, they want to erase Israel from the map, annihilate Jews in Israel and abroad, and then all infidels, just like Hamas wants and ISIS wants and Boko Haram and Hezbollah. They're all the same garbage with different acronyms, right? And so that's what their declared goal was to do. And since then, they learned how to put on a tie. The Palestinian Authority, they're so moderate. Dude, Abbas is a terrorist just like Haniyeh was a terrorist. There's no difference. The guy has a PhD, he wrote a dissertation on Holocaust denial. I mean, the guy's a freaking terrorist. Let's stop pretending that they're moderate. So this isn't a complicated conflict. It's very simple. There's Israel that wants to live in peace, has never started a war in the history of Israel. It's called Israel Defense Forces. All Israel wants is to live in peace, and we have paid a very steep price to live in peace, including giving them Gaza. Then there's this other entity, these Jordanians and Egyptians who made up this word called Palestinians, who want to annihilate us. They want to murder us. We want to live. That's the whole thing. And there's so many quotes, Golda Meir, right? The day that they love their kids more than they hate us, there will be peace, right? If they, these quotes, if they put down their, if they put down their weapons today, there'll be peace. If we put down our weapons today, there'll be no Israel, right? We all know these quotes. That's the reality. It's as simple as can be. There's nothing complex about this. Israel wants to live in peace. Our neighbors don't want to let us live in peace. Boom. You are now a political expert on the Middle East conflict. Congratulations.
Do we have a chance in changing the narrative in Chutz La'aretz on social media?
You mean our enemies?
Yeah.
That's a good question. So I think one of the biggest misconceptions about that is most people believe we can never win that war because they outnumber us like 1,000 to 1, and I don't believe that at all. I don't think that's the reason we're losing at all. The reason we're losing is because, and people don't realize this, as a marketing professional, I can tell you that their propaganda war, their information war, nothing about it is coincidental. They have media kits. Like if you guys think that all eyes on Rafah just came to be, just popped up, and you're very mistaken. And if you think that those tents on academic, on campuses just came to be on October 8th, they all got the same tents with the same flags. Where did it come from? This is all well organized. If I was hiring a marketing agency to run my company, I'd hire them in a second. They're amazing. And what do we do? We're all over the place. We have no narrative, and whatever we do have is fragmented. So we're playing a different sport. And so if we continue like this, there's no way we're going to win. But if we get the brightest minds into a room, a figurative room, and define our narrative, which I can tell you what I think it should be, but what it should not be is, oh my God, the world hates us. Like we sit there on Twitter, on X, yelling, the world hates us. Do you understand how, idiotic that is to be yelling that the world hates us? You're yelling that the world hates us, and if you're right that the world hates us, no one's listening. No one cares. Oh my God, the New York Times title is so bad. Okay. And what is the benefit of yelling about that all day long? You want to know what I think the narrative should be?
Yofi, go.
All right. So I think the narrative, and this is going to piss off a lot of people because, people are used to the apologetic Jew. Right? We have to apologize. Stop apologizing. Again, forgive me for saying this.
Not only the apologetic Jew, but the quiet Jew doesn't want to have.
Right. Don't want to ruffle any feathers.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So let me just disclaimer before I tell you what my narrative should be. I'm not a supremacist. I don't think Jews are better than anyone else. Full stop. Like period, full stop. Jews are not better than anyone else. That being said, given our culture, given our focus on education, on family values, on so many things that the world has adopted, right? The weekend. Where do people know about the weekend? Where do people know it's immoral to murder? In ancient times, it wasn't immoral to murder. How do people know it's immoral to murder? Where did they learn that from? From the Bible, from the Old Testament, from the Jewish tradition, okay? So again, not that we're better at our DNA, but culturally, the fact of the matter is that there is no ancient Egypt, there is no ancient Rome, there is no ancient Greece, there is no ancient Soviet, there is no ancient they're all gone. And here we are, building a nation of innovators that are changing the world. Why is that? The answer is because we focus on what's right. And the Torah and Judaism as a system, not as a religion, as a system, preserves, the Jewish nation. And so our narrative, in my opinion, should be to own that light, right? there is no question that if you look at this objectively, the Jews have been nothing but a source of light in this world. Look how many Jews won Nobel Prizes. Look who's leading the world in cancer research. Look what we've done in this world. And so instead of apologizing, stand up and say, yeah, pardon my French, we're the shit. We are a source of light. I'll tell you something really, really beautiful that I heard in the beginning of the war. You know Ephraim Goldberg?
Yeah.
So Ephraim Goldberg is a rabbi in Boca Raton, very, very popular, very charismatic guy. He said something unbelievable, really unbelievable. You hear me talk about this already? You've heard me say this?
Yeah, I've heard, but please.
There's no surprises today. Okay, so
I do my research. What do you think?
So he said something really unbelievable. So many people are familiar with the verse that when God comes to Abraham and says, leave your land, go to the land of Canaan, aka Israel, he says these 4 words that, again, as a religious Jew who's learned the Torah my entire life, I've read these words probably 1,000 times, never paid attention to them, and it's unbelievable. So God says to Abraham, those who bless you will be blessed. Those who bless you will be blessed. And just from a grammatical perspective, it uses the same word, bracha, which means blessing. Those who bless you, bracha, mivarechecha, will get blessed. But then it says, umekalelcha, those who curse you, you would expect from a grammatical perspective that the next word should be, I will curse, with the word klala, which means curse, right? Again, first half is vavracha mevarechecha, it's the word bracha, blessing. Umekalelcha, it should say akalel, I will curse, but it doesn't. Torah switches words, and it says umekalelcha aor. Now aor is another way to say I will curse, but there's clearly a reason that the Torah switched languages here. So Rabbi Ephraim Goldberg said something unbelievable. He said the word aor has another word in it. And if you know Hebrew, you know that the word that's in the word aor is or. Or is light, right? So here he says this is how you read that verse. Those who bless you, Abraham, aka the Jewish people, will be blessed. Umekalelcha, those who get in your face, those who don't stand in your corner as you fight an existential war, aor, they will see your light. They will see your delegations. They will see your support for the IDF. They will see your charity. They will see your light. They will see in a very dark world how the Jewish people shine a bright light. And it's time we own that. That should be our narrative. You don't like us? You want to live in your dark world? Go right ahead. But the Jews have enhanced your life. We've all seen the funny memes online. Good luck boycotting Israel. Like I wrote a whole post about this. Like a day in the life of someone who boycotted Israel. Like a day. You can't
do anything.
No, you can't use your iPhone. The chip is built in Herzliya, right? You can't unlock your iPhone. Face ID, developed by an Israeli company called PrimeSense, period. You can't water your garden, drip irrigation, developed by an Israeli, right? You can't use Waze to get to work. You can't use, GPS because Google owns Waze. You can't use Google. Good luck using Google on the internet. You can't use any of your devices. None of your devices, there's not a single device, not a single computer, not a single phone that doesn't have Israeli chips in it, period. You can't use AI. NVIDIA, you can't do anything. So if you're coming at me and you're saying we're going to boycott Israel, good luck.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to take a quick break to tell you about a new sponsor we have on the Dayna Show, Holy Rollers Painting Company. If you're looking for a painting company that provides American-style service, no mess, great prices, and really easy to deal with, then I recommend Holy Rollers Painting. They painted my house, did an incredible job. I'm so happy with them, and that's why I'm recommending them to you. Contact Dave at Holy Rollers on Facebook, mention my name, Dayna, and get preferred pricing. Good luck with it. I was so happy. I'm sure you will be too. Now back to our show. Everything that you're saying is right, but what about the aspect of jealousy? You're invoking a huge jealousy epidemic amongst other people, and that's not good for us either.
So I'm going to push back on that. I think jealousy is a real thing. I'm not dismissing that, but I don't think that that's the reason they hate us. Because they hated us when we were poor. They hate us when we're rich. They hate us when we're poor. They hate us when we're not white enough. They hate us when we're too white. Like the hatred, started to invoke
So what's the makor? What's the origin?
That's what I'm saying. So it's a very interesting thing because in the Torah, in Jewish scripture and Jewish commentary, we know, Gemara and everybody says, I'll say it in Hebrew, then I'll translate, Halacha biyadua Esav sonel Yaakov, right? It's a well-known fact, for lack of a better term, that Esav, as in the non-Jews, sonel Yaakov, hate the Jews. So it's a very interesting language. Halacha biyadua, it's a known thing. I don't think that language is said about anything else. And so I think the lesson here is, no matter what we do, anti-Semitism is built into the DNA of the world. Yeah. And again, they hated us when we were, no matter what we do, they hate us. So I don't think jealousy is in my opinion, a cop-out. It's a way to say, oh yeah, they hate us because they're not jealous. It's not jealousy. You want to know why I think they hate us?
Why?
It's, again, super controversial.
Go for it. That's why you're here. I want your opinion.
Right. So what happens is as follows. This is, again, open a history book. Okay, it's a fact. You can't deny this. it's the same script in every generation. Here's what happens, and this is what's going to happen now. There's an empire. Whatever empire you want to choose any empire, okay? And the empire grows and grows and grows and grows till it reaches world dominance and unparalleled power, right? The first thing that it does, throws morality out the window. Put people to fight in the Colosseum with the emperor, right? I'm sorry, again, forgive me, no gender. Don't tell me I'm a man, I'm a cat. Like, forget morality, just throw it out the window, right? Now, what happens when that empire doesn't want morality shoved down their throat? What is the source of morality? Again, we said this, right? So they can't come after the creator of morality. So what do? They come after the messenger. You kill FedEx, you don't get your package. They don't want morality shoved down their throat. They want to put people to fight to the death. Don't tell me that murdering is immoral. I don't want to hear it. So they come after the messengers of morality in the world. And then, like idiots, in every generation, we, the Jewish people, say, hey, don't hate us. We're just like you. We're fully assimilated. Hey, love us. And again, logically speaking, you would think the more similar we become to them, the less they hate us. The reality is, the more similar we become, the more we assimilate, the more they hate us. Because why? And again, this is
so right.
But here's the thing. But this is, again, the same person who told me that explanation told me this explanation. This is, again, it resonates. It is offensive to some. Like he says, we are the lighthouse on the sea. Right? The world is navigating their ships on the sea, and we are their lighthouse. When we put out our light and we assimilate and we say, we're just like you, they're like, dude, stop it. We need your light. Get your light back on. We're like, no, we're just like you. They're like, you're not just like us. And we have a tool that we've developed to show you you're not just like us. And it's called anti-Semitism. So when we put out our light and we pretend we're like everyone else, the world doesn't know how to navigate, society. And they're like, get your light back on. And we're like, no, we're in every generation. It's unbelievable. We make these same mistakes. Why are there people today that are Jewish supporting our enemies, like for real supporting? And forget the Turi Karta, like psychos. They're not. I don't know what they are. They don't represent anyone. Yeah. But like Jews for Palestine. Are you freaking kidding me? Do you know what would happen to you if you walked into Ramallah today? You, Jews for Palestine, with all the colored hair and all the queers and do you know what would happen to you if you walked, not into Gaza, forget Gaza. You know what would happen to me if you walked into Jenin today? And again, we're all over the place today, but like apartheid, dude, I'll walk 5 minutes, there's not a chance I won't see a Muslim walking in the streets here in the middle of Israel. What happens if I make a wrong turn into Ramallah? What happens if in fact, forget wrong turn. What happens if I walk up to the entrance of any Arab village in Israel? There's a big red sign. We all know the sign. It says, if you're a Jew, you can't go past this spot. Like, on what planet, in what universe is that okay? Like, you're Jewish, stop here. Can you imagine? Are you black? Don't come in. What? Are you gay? No, you can't come. What? But it's okay to say it. So who's the apartheid here? Like Arabs, millions of Arabs live in Israel freely. They're in our parliament. Like people don't, forget Arabs. Anti-state, anti-Zionism Arab Muslims are in the Israeli parliament. Like either we're like not an apartheid or we are the worst apartheid in history. So, but then you look at Muslim countries where they literally ethnically cleanse their country from Jews. Not a single Jew in any of these countries. But somehow the world says we're the apartheid. It's absurd.
It's crazy. Do you think that your role now in advocacy is making a difference?
I don't think I know because I have analytics, right? Everything's very transparent. So
tell me about what your role was in terms of advocacy before October 7th, how it's changed now, and tell me how you think it's made a difference.
So before October 7th, again, I was promoting Israel, but through tech. So if a person followed me online, I'm a tech guy. Like I write for all these leading tech publications. In my heart, I was always promoting Israel, but it was a tech angle. After October 7th, like I said, I removed that mask and I'm full-blown Israel. Yes, I still talk about tech here and there, but I'm Israel.
Are you still involved in tech? Are you still doing...
So it's an interesting thing. So for the last 15 years, I built this multi-million-dollar consulting business working with companies from two guys in a garage to Google, Oracle, and Microsoft. Like I was living the dream, right?
Right.
Making good money, everything was great. October 7th, I'm like, okay, I'm in a very unique position because I have the ear of the tech world. The tech world is predominantly, I'm generalizing, but predominantly left-leaning / anti-Israel. Some of the most anti-Israel people in the world are big tech investors. And
are they Arabs or are they regular?
Just regular Westerners.
Regular Westerners, okay.
And so I have their ear, right? And so I realized I'm in a pretty unique position and I have a big platform. So I just went all in on Israel advocacy and I've defined my mission very specifically. Two components to what I've been doing, and I've only been doing these things, nothing else. One is being a source of real-time accurate information, right? Real-time and accurate are two mutually exclusive things because if it's real-time, then you can't verify it, and then you don't know if it's accurate. And if you're going to verify it, it's not real-time. But because I'm getting, feeds from the Knesset, from the Israel, IDF spokesperson's office, from like different formal channels. So I'm able to cross-reference and say, okay, if they're telling this to me and they're telling this to me and it's probably true, right? And I'm super duper careful what I post. Very few exceptions in the war, maybe 2 or 3 where I wasn't 100%. But even those instances, I wasn't inaccurate. I just reported too early. Like we didn't have confirmation yet. Like when we killed Muhammad Def, for example. So that's one, is reporting real-time accurate information. And then the second component of my mission has been inward, just to give our people a reason to get up in the morning. Like a little optimism, a little hope, a little inspiration, whether it's an inspirational video or a milestone in the war or whatever it is, just give people a reason to smile. And that's what I've been doing. Now, in terms of the impact, you can measure it in many different ways. Just to measure it, technically, the analytics, since October 7th, I've reached 2.5 billion impressions with a B.
Wow.
So that's a lot of eyeballs.
Wow.
Right. So that's honestly good for my ego, not much else.
How does that make you feel?
It's a crazy number. It's a number I couldn't fathom. But I'll be honest with you, an impression is if someone clicks on a tweet. That doesn't really, they didn't really engage. It's not like they came to my website and bought a product. Impressions are a little bit of a vanity metric. It's not real, So how do you measure real impact? And the answer is the messages. The messages that I've gotten since October 7th, I really should have saved every one of them and put it into a book. Thousands, maybe more, I don't even know, of people saying to me, you completely changed my mind. I did not know that that's what Zionism was. I thought Zionism was racism. And for example, I wrote this post speaking of the significance of Zionism from a historical perspective, no emotion, no opinion, facts, hard facts. And I got thousands of messages from people saying, I didn't know any of that. And then these people who are otherwise intelligent people realize, okay, I know so little and I'm expressing my opinion, maybe I should study this. And then they go and they study, they realize, oh my God, I've been literally spreading propaganda this entire time. The genocide lie. Let's just give an example, right? The genocide lie, right? No, again, forget opinion. Okay, this is really important. Forget opinion. If you're walking around saying Israel committed genocide, presumably you know how many people Israel killed. Otherwise, how are you defining genocide? You know how many people Israel killed. How do you know that? Just literally ask yourself, where do I know, right? 45,000, 50,000. Where do you know that number from? The answer is Hamas, because there is no other source of information because we're in the middle of a war.
And Israel, they're a really reliable source.
Exactly. Israel's not releasing numbers because we're in the middle of a war. How many people died in World War II in the middle of the war? Nobody knows. So the only source of information from Gaza right now is Hamas. So if you're walking around claiming we committed genocide, let's just be clear about this. You are walking around quoting murderers, rapists, and pedophiles. That's what you're doing. This isn't an opinion. There's no other source. So if you're walking around saying we're committing genocide, you are siding with actual terrorists and being their propaganda arm. So the question is, otherwise intelligent people, I'll give you an example, right? There's a guy named Paul Graham, okay? Just high level. Paul Graham is probably top 5 investors in the world, okay? He started a thing called Y Combinator, which is the best startup accelerator in the world. He's a big deal in the tech world. He is a flaming anti-Semite. He doesn't even play the anti-Zionist thing. He's a flaming anti-Semite. And you ask yourself, how is someone so brilliant so dumb, right? And it's a phenomenon. Why do the Jews bring out this forget hatred? Paul Graham is a genius. You have all the resources at your disposal. Learn, study, and
fact check.
Exactly. So it boggles the mind. But when I get messages from people saying, you changed my mind, then I'm like, okay, I'm making an impact. So I know that I'm making an impact. I have people. Bill Ackman. Bill Ackman, I was having burgers with my daughter, and Bill Ackman calls. Bill Ackman. He's a billionaire. I'm like, what that? He's like, hey, it's Bill. I'm like, Bill who? Bill Ackman. I'm like, come on. No. He's like, I love your work. Let me know what you need. I'm like, what? So people that follow me and, people that are pretty influential, and I know that I'm changing minds. The big question is who am I targeting, right? Because there are 3 groups, right? There's our group. We don't need convincing, but we need reinforcement. We need more information, right? We need knowledge. The opposite side are the Heil Hitler folks. There's no talking to them. They're crazies. They're nuts. Literally, it's the people who are yelling that the Holocaust didn't happen, and then their next breath saying that Hitler was right. Which one is it? Idiots. Complete ignoramus. Just stupid people. I don't talk to those people. There's no talking to them. And if I do change one of their minds, it's a miracle. And that has happened. But I don't talk to those people. The middle group, which just based on my anecdotal evidence, I don't have any data to back this up, is the biggest group by far. Now, how do I define the middle group? The middle group are not necessarily people that are pro-Israel, but they're people who have integrity, people who are willing to listen, engage, without profanity, without name-calling, without horrible emojis. Let's have a conversation. There are millions of people like that who either are on the fence or were convinced from some TikTok video, but they're smarter than to think that they're right because they saw a TikTok video. So if you engage with them in a very specific way, by the way, a very specific way, because dictating to someone saying you're wrong, ineffective. Questions are very effective. In my experience, questions are very effective. You think we occupied an Arab-Palestinian state? Please come back to me and tell me when it was established. Just let me know. I'm going with you. We occupied Gaza. Please go research what the disengagement was and let me know. What does that mean? What happened in 2005? Were there Jews in Gaza on October 6th? Do the research. I'm not telling you. I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. Go do the research. So when you ask someone a question, again, assuming that they're a person with integrity, it forces them to go do some research. And then when they do the research, it's pretty conclusive. Like we left Gaza in October.
So then why are there so many people who don't believe it? Who don't even want to do the research?
It's a fantastic question. It's $1 million question. First of all, people are lazy. It's just a fact of life. People are lazy.
A lot of them are university students.
Because that's Qatar. That's Qatar funded. That's funded. That's well organized and funded. There's nothing about that that's coincidental. Nothing. But yeah, I mean, listen, when you see a trend on TikTok glorifying bin Laden, you know you've lost the plot. Like, we've lost our minds.
Yeah.
Or as my dad likes to say, people have such open minds, their brains fell out.
Everything that happens in Israel, when there's a new situation, I'm always like, how are they going to twist it now?
Yeah.
You know, like, what cockamamie story are they going to come up with now?
No, it's literally crazy. I mean, we've been blamed for everything. There's nothing that happens in the world that you can't find someone on Twitter who's blaming the Jews for that. Like, we're now, this morning I read, we're being blamed for the Russia-Ukraine war. It's our fault. Everything's our fault. Everything's our fault. You can find a thing that has literally zero to do in any way, shape, or form with the Jews, they'll find a way to blame us. It's wild.
It's crazy. Israel has a bunch of really great advocates. You know, Eitan Chatate was on the program also. And he asked me if I knew who the advocates were in the United States. Where's the voice of the Jewish voice in North America right now, or in Chutz La'aretz, anywhere? Why is it so quiet there?
I don't think it's quiet there.
Really?
Yeah. I think
who are the strong Jewish voices in Chutz La'aretz?
Ben Shapiro.
Okay, Ben Shapiro, but he's always been part of the news.
Yeah, but he's doing a very good job now. Yechiel Jacobs, the comedian.
Yeah, he's great.
Like there's
Noah Tishby and whatever.
She's here.
What?
She's here.
Yeah, but she's been a lot in Chutz La'aretz.
Yeah, but she's Israeli. I'm saying the American voices, there are quite a few. I think there are a few. You know, again, Ben Shapiro is for sure the biggest, but I think there are some people left in America who have moral clarity. And that's what it is, by the way, to be clear. Like, we talked about nuance before. Nuance is a real thing with some exceptions, and good and evil is not nuanced. Like, this war is not like, oh, Israel's half right, they're half right. No. There's good and evil here. One side wants to live in peace, the other side is raping children. Like, let's just say it as it is. So there are people still in the world, in the West, that do have that moral clarity and can tell the difference between good and evil. But again, controversial, okay? But I'm contemplating whether I should say this or not. Listen, here's the thing, right? When you educate an entire generation to not use critical thinking, and you are telling a child or a student or whatever that they're looking at a woman, but that woman is not a woman, it's a cat. What you're saying to that person is, stop using your brain. But this is important. I want to be very clear. Like, if someone wants to be called a certain pronoun, call them a pronoun. What do you care? It doesn't cost you anything. Like, just why would you offend people, right? Just call them whatever you want. But the answer is yes, there is a price. Because the price is that when you tell someone to not use critical thinking and to not believe their eyes and to not understand and believe and accept and internalize what their brain is telling them, which is I'm looking at a man, yeah, when it comes to pronouns, there's no price. But what you've done is you've taught an entire generation to not use critical thinking so that when there's a war between good and evil, they can't recognize it because you told them not to use their brains. And now they're like, oh yeah, they're oppressed and this is resistance. Like, dude, are you literally justifying pedophilia right now? You've taught them not to use their brains. So in a generation where literal pedophiles are called, what do they call them? Minor attracted individuals? Like, there's a name for pedophilia, right? We've lost it. We've lost our freaking minds. And so again, when it's pronouns, no big deal. But it's a much more profound effect in the long term when you teach an entire generation not to use their brains. So it's a very sad thing. And I think we are fortunate to have some strong voices with moral clarity, but not nearly enough. Not nearly enough.
Because of your presence on social media, are you ever threatened? People send you hate mail, threatening messages?
I would literally read an email that I got just now, but I can't say those words on air. So I'll tell you a funny story. Many years ago, I went to meet Ben Shapiro before he moved to Florida, and I asked him that question. I was like, how do you deal with all the hate? on Twitter, right? He tweets something, he gets 50,000 hate messages. So he looked at me like I fell off of Mars. And he's like, you think I read that stuff? I'm like, what do you mean you don't read? How do you not read it? He said, I tweet and I mute. I don't read the replies at all. And I was thinking, this was like 8 years ago. I'm thinking to myself, doesn't that defeat the purpose? It's social media. It's supposed to be social. You're supposed to engage with people. And I remember thinking that's crazy. In the war, that's what I do. I don't read the replies because when I do go in there, I'm like, oh my God, right? So I don't read the replies. So that's taking one part of the hate and abuse that I get off the table. I just don't read it. But then there are people who go and they find my email and send me the most. By the way, I have no problem with engaging with anyone and debating. The things that people send me, like, again, words that I can't say. Like, I'll just give you one example. Someone on Twitter found a picture, and I had never seen this picture before. Found a picture of me and my brothers at Ari's funeral, like hugging and crying. And they took that picture and they photoshopped on top of it blood pouring down on all of us and said, you're next. Like, these are sick people. So online I get tons of abuse, like tons, right? But you know what? I'm able to maybe somehow withstand that. And resilience is something that I built over the years and thick skin. But it's escalated much, much more in this war offline. Like, literal, like, like when I go speak somewhere, I forbid them from publicizing where it is and that I'm coming.
Yeah,
it's terrifying. People come after me, and you can't. They're relentless. Like they'll try anything to bring me down, and it's scary. Like, because it is. I mean, they are successful sometimes. Like,
are you afraid?
I am afraid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You take precautions for your security?
I don't. Before the war, I would in the airport when I go traveling, I take a nice selfie and say, "Oh, I'm going here, I'm going there." I don't do that anymore. I don't let anybody know where I'm going. And when I go speak, I don't let, whether it's a synagogue or an organization, I'm going. I'm not going to say where, but I'm going this week to the States for an event. And I said to them, "I'm happy to come, but you are absolutely forbidden from publicizing this. You can send it to your little community, but if you publicize this publicly, I'm not coming." It's terrifying. People are they will 100% show up at the airport. Like, people are insane.
I'm relatively new to all of this social media, and I've experienced also a lot of hate that I was shocked about because I've never been a victim of that kind of thing. Jewish whore, we're coming to kill you. You should go back to the gas chambers.
You're not going to read this out loud because you'll traumatize your viewers. But I just want you to just take a look at this for 1 second. Again, just so you understand the level of poison. Like, here, this is the more moderate one. It's short. I don't want to show you the long ones because that will take you an hour to read. Just look at that.
Okay.
Like, this is a person who spent time finding my email. Now, my email is not that hard to find, but like I couldn't write those words if I wanted to.
Can I say what the man's name is?
Say whatever you want.
Paul Morse wrote the most disgusting message to you.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And that's not even close to the worst.
How do you combat that? How do you deal with it?
I ignore it. But again,
is that your advice to people on social media, to ignore it? Because I remember you were talking about your brother who said that he engaged.
Right. Yeah, he engaged with everyone.
He engaged.
And his concept was if you're engaging with someone, whether or not that person's listening, other people are listening, and they're watching that dialogue. They should know the truth. And I hear that. The volume that I deal with, there's no way for me to engage with everyone. It's impossible. But I'll be honest with you. Like, I'm sure you've seen this, but in the beginning of the war, if I open my inbox right now, for sure I'd hate messages. 50 a day, right? And so in the beginning, it would get to me, it would make me angry.
Imagine.
So what did I do? I set up a shortcut. Remember the shortcuts we were talking about before? I set up a shortcut where I just write out one word and it fills an entire paragraph that says, when someone comes at me and sends me a message, I write back. Let me read it to you what I write back. So, by the way, I'll show it to you in action. I'm sorry that your viewers can't
please.
See.
I want to hear.
Watch. I write the word sweetie, right? Watch, with another E. Boom. So how it filled it in? So this is what I write. When someone comes at me, I write, "Thanks, sweetie. I donated money to the IDF in your name. Zionists worldwide, thank you for your contribution," and Israeli flags.
Oh my God.
And that gives me such satisfaction. It's like, instead of getting angry, it's like I turned it and I flipped it. And now I'm like, when you send me a hate message, it makes me feel good. Because I'm actually, making you so angry by donating money in your name because of that hate. And it flipped the whole thing on me. Now I get satisfaction. I enjoy when people send me hate messages.
What advice do you have to give to the average guy who sees all of this interaction, that Jewish person who sees all this negative interaction? Should people engage? Should they stay away? What is your advice?
So first of all, I wanna debunk an important lie. That's not the right word. Misconception about social media. Right? We've all heard this. What's the point of me posting on Facebook? I'm just speaking to my echo chamber. I have 4 followers. They're my friends. What's the point? Right? We've all heard that. So I'm here to tell you, just from a technical perspective, that's just not true. Like, just, technically speaking, that is just not true. Why? Because if I share something and it's written well and it's meaningful, and one of my 4 followers on Facebook or 4 friends on Facebook shares it to their friend, I just exited my echo chamber. I just accessed their audience. So, there are endless stories. I can tell you endless stories of a person who was completely anonymous, like had 4 followers, tweeted something and he wrote it well, and it went viral like that because one of the people that saw it was Oprah Winfrey. To give an example, right? So we all should use our platform. Some of us have bigger platforms, some of us smaller platforms, but you just simply don't know what will happen if you share the truth. You just don't know. And it's important that there's more truth being spread. So if you know and you have the knowledge, which you need to have, use your platform as small as you might think it is. You never know the impact you could have. And Ari's a perfect example of that. Ari's just a person. He used his phone and impacted millions of lives. So like each and every one of us has a platform, some bigger, some smaller, but don't think that you can't have an impact. If you have an opinion and you have knowledge, don't leave it in your head and in your heart. Share it.
Can I ask you some personal questions?
You can ask me whatever you want.
Okay.
I think.
Favorite music?
Oh man, that's a funny question. Jewish music?
Doesn't matter.
I'm telling you, Jewish music.
Jewish music is your favorite music?
Let me tell you, it's a funny thing. I don't think I've ever admitted this on the air. Growing up, I had like an obsession with Miami Boys Choir. It's choir.
Me too.
Did you really?
Me too.
It's hilarious. So in elementary school, I'm walking around with my yellow Walkman. Remember those?
Yes.
My yellow with like earphones on and pretending that I'm listening to Guns N' Roses because I was like embarrassed that I'm listening to Jewish music, right? So I love Jewish music. Mordechai Shapiro, Miami Boys Choir, but obviously I'm obsessed with Queen and the Beatles. Lately, I've developed a really a liking to Billie Eilish. I just think she's awesome.
Yeah.
But if you 9 out of 10 times if you like come into my car or look at my Spotify, it's Jewish music.
Would you not listen to a singer if they were an anti-Semite? Like
Really
and
interesting question.
Yeah.
Because that it's a much broader question, which is, does a person's art diminish when they behave immorally? We see this, by the way, in our world because, Meshi Zahav.
Pink Floyd.
Yeah, but don't forget him. Yeah, obviously, right? But I'm saying in our world, the Jewish world, right?
Yeah.
You have Meshi Zahav, who started Zaka. They pick up dead bodies when there's terrorists. There's nobody more angelic than him. And he was a sexual monster, a predator that raped and... So, does that take away from his good? Or there's this, what's his name? The author, the kid's author. You know what I'm talking about?
J.K. Rowling?
No. The Israeli... Whatever. There was a Jewish kid's author, come back to me in a minute, who wrote endless books that are in every Jewish home and every Jewish school. And it turned out that he had been a predator, and my wife threw his books out. And it's a good question. Does, I don't know, not to compare, but Shlomo Carlebach, right? My dad was super close with him. I met him many times. I didn't know of any foul play, but there are rumors.
Right.
But every shul in the world sings his songs. So should you stop singing his songs because there are rumors that he did something immoral? I don't think so, right? I'm not going to listen to what's his name? What's his name from
Pink Floyd?
Pink Floyd, what's his name? Roger Waters. I would not listen to him, right?
It's such good music, though. It's so chaval.
I know, but
So
I think there are limits. But I'm generally speaking, if a person's an artist, I don't, with exceptions. If they're they're extreme predator who literally, then maybe. But generally speaking, to me, I compartmentalize. It's good music, good art. I'll listen to it.
I was kind of expecting you to come with clothes that are more colorful because you're usually a very colorful person.
You know this shirt? You know what it is?
No.
Nas Daily? You know Nas Daily?
Yes, of course.
That's this thing. Yeah, sorry, I'm
So
very conservative. My
next
sneakers,
one-
though.
Yes, they're yellow and black. My question was, what's your favorite color? Because I've seen people who follow you on social media see you come up with on Shabbat, you have the greatest suits.
It's a funny story, actually.
Where do you get them, and what's your favorite color?
My favorite color, I think, is royal blue.
Really?
It's a beautiful color.
Yeah.
But real quick, someone introduced me to someone. I met him, and it turns out he makes custom suits. So he's been making suits for me for years. And then, just funny story, I don't know, maybe a year ago, my wife sends me a picture of an African-American model wearing a hot pink suit. And she goes, "I dare you." I was like, "What? Why would you do that? What do you think I'm going to do now?" So I made a hot pink suit. So I have some crazy suits, but this guy makes them for me custom. And
do you like expressing yourself through fashion?
It's interesting. I never really thought about it. I never sat and analyzed it too much, but I guess I do. Yeah, I guess I care, what I'm wearing and how I look, I guess. I would never define myself by that. Some people are, but yeah, I guess for me, maybe it's a way of expressing creativity.
It is.
I never thought about that question until this second. Never.
Really?
Yeah, really. I never thought about it.
And, it stands out so much.
I put on a suit and I just whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, but you don't see people wearing a red suit to shul.
That's true. Yeah, and I don't know. I never sat and analyzed it, but I guess there's some truth to that.
I love it. I think it's
Thank you.
fantastic.
Thank you.
What's your favorite food?
Pizza, no question about it.
Really?
Yeah, I have a sickness. Like I legitimately have I'm not going to eat one slice of pizza, like a pie of pizza. I have a sickness. But then there's the shawarma obsession. Total obsessed with shawarma. Totally obsessed with shawarma. Like I can eat shawarma all
With
day.
amba? Without amba?
No, not an amba guy. I'm not an amba guy at all.
I don't even know what it is.
But it's mango.
I know mango and
Listen, I love pizza. I love shawarma. I love falafel. So I'm on Ozempic now. Nothing. I've never admitted that online, but I am on Ozempic now. Not because I was heavy.
Mazel tov.
Thank you. I wasn't heavy, but like again, I love food. Like you're supposed to eat to live. I live to eat, kind of thing. So I was like, I could either, after 45 years of living on this earth, learn moderation, which I know I'm not going to do because I'm just not a person of moderation, or I could just go on Ozempic. And so Lord. So now, like pre Ozempic, I would eat tons of steak. Like I was on Atkins, whatever. I can't eat steak anymore. If I have a steak, I'll eat maybe a quarter of it, and then I get full from Ozempic. Yeah. So now I would say, yeah, it's.
Have you lost?
Yeah, 35 pounds.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
I went down on like 4 sizes.
How long did it take you?
4 months, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah, but it lowers your appetite. It's a cool thing.
Yeah.
So
And no
pizza, shawarma,
other
falafel.
physical, medical issues?
I mean, it's too early to know. It's brand new, but yeah, no, pizza number one, and then shawarma, and then falafel. Oh my God, I have a big problem with shawarma. Falafel too, by the way. I will be like driving home, and I'm like, oh my God, I need a falafel.
I know.
It's crazy.
I know. It's
And by the way, here's a confession I have never made on the air. I am obsessed. You're gonna think this is the weirdest thing ever. I am obsessed with eating in my car. Like I would rather go to a falafel store, fill the falafel with tahina and sit in my car than sit in the restaurant and eat. I don't know why. I don't know what that is. But like I will literally go into a restaurant, buy a steak, and sit in my car and eat it. Don't know why.
Do you have a clean car?
I do, because I get car washes a lot, but if I didn't get car washes, that'll be very bad. The other day I had a falafel in my car and the tahina just spilled everywhere. My black seat in my car was white. And I went to the car wash. He's like, "What the heck is this? Like, why is I can't even get it out." Like, yeah, so I love eating in my car, but
yeah.
I mean, listen. Then there's like Chinese food. I got a lot of foods, but pizza's a problem.
Who's your favorite world leader? Whether prime minister, president, anything.
It's complicated.
Anyone.
It's a complicated question.
Could be an Israeli.
Right, it's a complicated question because if you're asking me who's the most talented politician, in my opinion, Bibi, in my opinion, is one in a generation. Like, and I didn't vote for him, but he is off the charts, brilliant, off the charts. Like his ability to articulate, he's off the charts. So from a talent perspective, I don't think there's anyone near Netanyahu, in my opinion. But, I have issues with him. Don't get me wrong. I think there are issues there. I can't say that Trump is my favorite because I think he's a loose cannon. I think he's done amazing things. His policies are amazing, but he's a loose cannon. Okay, I'm going to go all in on this and offend people for sure. No offense. You actually going to get offended. I don't know if I should say this.
Why, you like Trudeau?
No.
Okay.
The other way.
Pierre?
No.
Okay.
Everyone likes Pierre, but no, Israel. Bezalel Smotrich.
Oh, wow.
Let me explain.
Okay, go for it.
So he is the Minister of Treasury of Israel. He's a religious Jew. He's a very right-wing Jew. He's had some questionable, he's expressed himself questionably in the past. Even when he was a kid, he was very extreme. First of all, disclosure, full disclosure, my brother's his administrative assistant / spokesman. So I know him intimately. I know him. I've sat with him. I've spoken to him. He comes to our bar mitzvahs of our family. I know him very well. And I think that a perfect example of how the press and the media twists reality is that you will never hear the word Smotrich without the word Ben Gvir, right? Smotrich and Ben Gvir, but they could not be more different. And again, I don't know Ben Gvir, I never met him, but to me, he seems like an absolute loose cannon. He doesn't seem reliable, he doesn't seem responsible. I think he's just, whatever. Smotrich is not like that. Smotrich is a man of values. He has said things, and I said to him straight up, I'm like, you can't, like famously, one of his famous things is that he called the gay parade the animal parade. And I sat with him, the first time I sat with him, like, you can't say things like that. So he said two things to me, and both are true, okay? And one of them you'll like, one of them you won't like. First of all, he said, I apologized 1,000 times. I shouldn't have said that. I said it 10 years ago. I apologized. It was wrong, period. So the fact that the press is still peddling that is like ridiculous. People make mistakes. But he said something else to me, which is a little more controversial, but as a politician, it actually makes sense. He said to me, Hillel, you're in your tech world, and in your tech world, I'm taboo, right? Because I said this and I said that, but I'm not talking to those people. They're not my constituents. He says, my constituents are the people in Machane Yehuda, in the Shuk, in the marketplace of Jerusalem, who are yelling, Rak Bibi, just Bibi, right? Those are my guys, and they want me to speak that way. So I said to him, okay, that might be true, but you still can't say certain things. So I think he's made mistakes. I think he needs to learn English. I think it's utterly embarrassing he doesn't speak English. But I think he's a man of values. I think he stands by his values, and I think he's not playing the politics game. You could disagree with his values. You could disagree with his opinions. But you cannot say that Bezalel Smotrich doesn't stand by his values. He doesn't play the politics game. And so for that, I have a lot of respect for him. I think he's not polished enough. I think he has a lot of work to do, but I have a lot of respect for him. Remember this question? Remember before I could remember what I was going to say?
Yes.
Do you mind?
Yeah, please, go ahead.
Okay, because this is a really important point. I haven't heard anyone else say this, okay?
Okay.
Okay, so you know remember where we were going, because I feel like I interrupted you, but this is really important. So everyone knows the story, or the parable, whatever you want to call it, of the man. There's a storm, and the man gets on a roof. Right, I'll just tell it for those that don't know. There's a big storm, man gets on the roof, and everyone's evacuating on ships and on whatever, and he's on the roof, and the water's climbing. He's like, I'm going to stay here, God will save me. And then they send a boat, like, get in the boat. He's like, no, I'm going to stay here, God will save me. And then they send a helicopter, get in the helicopter, God will save me. And he stays there, and the water higher and higher and higher, and he drowns. And he goes up to God, he's like, God, I believed in you. I had faith in you. How did you let me die? Why didn't you save me? And God looks at him and says, why didn't I save you? I sent you a ship. I sent you a helicopter. Why didn't you get on? Right? Again, no offense, maybe a little offense, because it's a harsh thing to say, but it's important. As Jews, we all pray for the ingathering of the exiles. We pray that Jews should come back to Israel. We pray for the Messiah. We pray, and we just assume, like, okay, when Mashiach comes, when Messiah comes, then we'll all come to Israel. But I actually don't think that that's the case. I think that if you're a religious Jew who prays to God every day for the Mashiach to come, and after 120, you're going to go up to God, you're going to say to God, God, I prayed to you every single day that Mashiach should come. Why didn't you bring Mashiach? You know what God's going to say to you? Why didn't I bring Mashiach? Why didn't I bring the ingathering of the exiles? I brought you elal.com. I brought you Nefesh B'Nefesh. You could have gotten on the boat. Why did you get on the 787, Dreamliners? You had big screens. You had everything you needed. Why didn't you get on? You were waiting for me? If you had gotten to Israel, Mashiach would have come. Why didn't you get on the boat? That is what I think is the reality. And so the religious Jews in America, no air quotes, the religious Jews in America think, look, yeah, I'll come to Israel when Mashiach comes. But when you come to Israel, Mashiach will come. That's what I believe.
How do you apply that to pre-Holocaust?
What do you mean?
Did they have a boat that was coming to save them?
No, I mean, we're going there. This is a very broad topic. I think that there's a common misconception here when people who say to me, like, where was God in the Holocaust? Where was God in the Holocaust? Hitler did the Holocaust. God lets people do whatever they want. God gives them freedom of choice. In fact, this week's Torah portion, literally, it talks about God hardening the heart of Pharaoh. Why is that such a novelty? Because God doesn't do that. God lets you make decisions. God didn't do October 7th. Hamas did October 7th, right? Furthermore, the people that say, where was God in the Holocaust? If you're going to ask that question and you're going to blame God when bad things happen, then you need to be consistent and wake up in the morning and thank God for letting you breathe and open your eyes in the morning. Don't be a hypocrite. So I don't have a theological problem with that. It wasn't God who did the Holocaust.
That's not what I meant. I don't think that God caused the Holocaust or whatever. My point is that did the Jews have an opportunity before the Holocaust to come to Israel to save themselves? Were there simanim that were given to them that they didn't follow?
I mean, the answer is unequivocally yes. I mean, again, Nuremberg laws was the final straw. But when they saw Hitler and his rhetoric and it started to become, what were they thinking was going to happen? Now, it's important to remember that there was no state of Israel. It wasn't as easy as it is today, right?
Right.
But yeah, many of them did. Many of them could have. Some of them went to America, whatever. But they could have gotten out. And I think they said what American, or I should say, Jews of the different exiles today are saying, which is, it's an enlightened Germany. It's not going to happen here. This isn't Spain. It's not going to happen here. That's what they're saying today. It's not going to happen here, right? It happened in every other place, in every other generation. You think America's more enlightened than Germany was? They were at the peak, the epitome of enlightenment. They were culture, the Nazis. So it happened then, it will happen today. So the answer is yes. I think Jews there, and like everywhere, just convince themselves, we're comfortable here. Yeah, it's not going to happen here. Big deal. Let Hitler speak. It's not really going to, and if I wish someone would have said to my grandmother, what has to happen? Because that's what I asked my friends today. What has to happen? It seems to me that everything's already happened. What has to happen? If you're watching this and you're in America, just ask yourself this question. Is there an event, any event, I don't go crazy, I don't care, any event that if that event takes place, you're on a plane? Not in 5 years, in an hour. Like if your next door neighbor is raped and murdered with a swastika painted on their door, are you getting on a plane? So I have friends who say to me, this is my home, I'm not running away. So I'm like, would you have told my grandmother that? Would you have said to my grandmother, stay, you got to stick around and fight? Now, in retrospect, is that what you would have told her? Clearly not. So I get it. You want to stay, you don't want to give in, you don't want to give up, you don't want to surrender, this is your home, can't run away. I get it. Also, I get that the anti-Semitism is going through the roof and it's not going to get any better and the genie's not going back in the bottle. So stop kidding yourself. You can be a hero, but you can be, right or you can be smart, right? Get on a plane because it's not going to get any better. It's going to get a lot worse and fast. Again, we say history repeats itself and yet nobody opens a history book to see what's about to happen. But we know what's going to happen because remember the script I told you before, morality goes out the window? I forgot to mention the final stage. After they come after the Jews and we assimilate and there's no morality, the next thing that happens is the empire falls. So again, based on the current trajectory, the Western world, Western civilization as we know it, is, in my opinion, less than a decade away from falling to radical Islam.
Yeah, that's what a lot of people are saying.
I really believe that.
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll be a decade, it might be 20 years, but we're at the end. Unless we reverse it. And by the way, if anyone can reverse it, it's Donald Trump. I mean, look what he did in the first week in office, right? Literally declaring that there are two genders. Like, that shouldn't be controversial, but so, he could reverse, but we're on a very bad trajectory right now.
What is the hope for Israel to become independent? Is there hope?
It's a good question.
Because it really pisses me off, to use your words, it pisses me off that Donald Trump is in office for such a short period of time, and all of a sudden the hostages start coming out. Why couldn't we do this on our own?
I don't know if you realize this. I'm sure many people watching this don't realize how deeply dysfunctional the Biden administration was. And yesterday, this news came out. You can't make this stuff up. You literally could not make. If I came into a production company's office with what I'm about to tell you, and I told them this, they would say to me, come back with a realistic script. There is no way.
It's hilarious.
Yesterday, Donald Trump's spokeslady, or whatever her title is, announced to the press that they found and they stopped the transfer of $50 million of American taxpayer money that was going to, sit down, condoms in Gaza. I'm going to let you just $50 million of U.S. taxpayer money in the Biden administration was going to Gaza for condoms. Like, the Biden administration was so dysfunctional and so backwards, and that's why we see the disintegration of the moral fabric of Western civilization. I hope Trump will reverse this, but it's just what he did in a week, the executive order. It's wild stuff. And again, I'm not saying that I'd marry Donald Trump or hire him to babysit my kids. He's a little bit of a loose cannon.
Right.
You could say he might be a narcissist. You could say a lot of things about him. What you can say is that he doesn't have good policy, especially as it pertains to Israel. He could not be any clearer. I don't know if you know that Netanyahu's meeting him next week. He's the first leader to go to Washington to meet Trump, which is historic. It's pretty unbelievable.
Can Israel survive without them? United States?
Okay, so that's a question. This is I can't. To me, this is
who needs who more? Do we need them or they need us?
First of all, it's a mutually beneficial relationship, and anybody who says otherwise is just either ignorant or just lying. It is. America gets tons from Israel, Israel gets tons from America. It's not a one-way thing. That's number one. The way I see it, and this is, I don't think I've ever seen anyone compare it to this, but I see our situation today as the moment that the Israelites stood at the sea, before the sea split. Because behind them, they had the chariots, right? Egypt was chasing them. The strongest, empire in the world was just, approaching. And in front of them, they had black. They had the sea, the unknown. It's terrifying, right? And they had to make a move for it to split. And so we know, famously, that one Nachshon jumped in, and then the split sea, and everyone ran in, right? But there's something really interesting about that story that, again, I didn't think of, and I'm sure 99% of people who know that story don't, recognize. It says, it's unbelievable. They're on the sea, right? And again, behind and they don't know what to do. They're stuck, right? So they start yelling at Moses, what did you do? Bring us back to Egypt. Look what you caused us. And Moses goes to God and says, what did you do? You're going to kill the people. What do you? And God says the weirdest thing to Moses. He says to him, I'll say it in Hebrew, Daber el bnei Yisrael v'isau. He says, go talk to the Israelites and go. Don't look at me. This isn't a time for prayer. Jump in the water. Jump in the water. I will split the sea, but jump in. You got to take the first step, right? So if you'd ask me personally, I'm not speaking as a, political science, graduate or whatever. I'm talking as Hillel Fuld. To me, we're in an abusive relationship with America. Now, again, I'm not talking about Trump. I'm talking about pre-Trump, right? Obama, Biden. We are in an abusive relationship. Sometimes they're nice. Sometimes they're not. Depends on their mood, right? We're going to withhold weapons. We're going to send weapons. Again, I'm very grateful for the good things that Biden did for us. He did a lot. But we were in an abusive relationship, and you got to get out of an abusive relationship, as hard as it is. You got to jump into the sea. It's hard. But God says to us, get in. get in, jump. Now, what does that mean practically? To break up with America? Like, people don't realize this. Every one of those Iron Dome missiles is $100,000. Think about how many we fired in this war. Tens of thousands, right? So that's a lot of money. So it's not so easy. It's very nice to say we need to break up with America. It's not so easy. Maybe it could be a gradual breakup. I don't know. But sustainably speaking, there's no way we can continue this relationship unless, again, Trump.
Or we could have a casual relationship.
Yeah. Friends with benefits.
Exactly.
But Trump can definitely reverse this trend. And he's if the first week in office is any indication, he is reversing it. And so I have a little bit of cautious optimism here, but we need to break up. Like, long term, we need to break up. We can't be dependent. It's not. By the way, it's not even a function of America. We cannot be dependent on a foreign government. It doesn't work.
Yeah, we can never be in a situation where they tell us don't go into Rafah. We'll withhold weapons if you go into Rafah. It's where our hostages are.
It's unbelievable.
That's crazy. It's not in our best interest.
Unbelievable. The fact that they told us not to go into Rafah, the fact that they told us not to go into Lebanon, it's unbelievable. It's truly and like you would think if Joe Biden had any integrity, once we went in and we discovered what was there, you would think he would get up and say, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I threw my allies under the bus. I should not have told you not to go into Rafah. I'm sorry. Not a word.
Well, we don't have the same interests.
That's true, but it's still, if we're your ally, you should not be telling us not to win a war. That's insanity, right?
But sometimes our interest is a conflict for them, because not only do they have to maintain peace with us, but they want to try to keep things on a low flame with Iran and with the other places as well.
Yeah, but the level of hypocrisy, I mean, we didn't even talk about that, but the level of hypocrisy in this entire narrative is just, it's you either laugh or you cry. Like again, I don't know how much time, like there's the list of things. You don't have to be a history expert. You don't have to know anything about the Middle East. You have to be a person who has logic of a 3-year-old. Someone explained to me, I mean this genuinely, I'm waiting for someone to explain this to me. How could it be that Gazans are starving and hostages are being fed well? Is there food in Gaza or is there not food in Gaza? You can't have both. You can't have both. Do you want globalized intifada or ceasefire now? You can't be the same person saying those two things. They're mutually exclusive. You can't have both, right? And the list of things, again, you don't have to know anything. Just look at their narrative. They contradict themselves constantly. It's endless, literally endless. From the river to the sea, which means erase Israel, and a 2-state solution. Which one is it? You can't have both, right? So you don't have to be a genius. You just have to look at their narrative objectively. You'll realize you don't have to disprove them. They disprove themselves all day, every day. Their entire narrative is one big lie, because that's how it started, with one big lie.
I see you getting so excited when you talk.
Because it drives me crazy.
What do you do to find the balance in your life? How's your health? Besides the Ozempic, how's your health?
I mean, this is an interesting topic because, after Ari, it was traumatic, and so, depression, etc. And I think, and I'm a big believer, and I'm, again, I've said a lot of things today I've never said on air before, but I'm a big, big, big believer and supporter of cannabis. Like, as a, not forget recreational, that's a different topic, but I'm saying, like, for me, like, it I don't want to say saved my life, that's a little bit sensationalist. I wasn't, God forbid, suicidal, but, like, cannabis is an incredible thing when you got to take the edge off. And it's better than taking Klonix or any whatever. So I'm a big believer in that. But, writing.
You take edibles? You smoke? What do you do?
Yes.
Okay.
Shabbat, whatever.
You could have smoked here. I have an ashtray.
It would have been a lot funner of an interview.
Yeah, next time.
Next time. But no, I'm a big believer in that. And, honestly, for me, writing calms me. I love writing. And just chilling at night, watching Seinfeld or something. Like, I'm just, not using my brain, because I use my brain all day. I just want to chill at night and not use my brain. So like literally last night, my wife's like, okay, let's watch a movie. And I'm like, I can't deal with a heavy movie right now. You watch this like stupid romantic comedy, just like a dumb movie. And like, it was good. Just chilling there, like order some food and just, so just to veg out, kind of chill out at night. That's something that I need, decompress. But yeah, I mean, those things really do calm me. But yeah, I'm not, listen, again, this isn't like an act that I'm putting on. When people talk to me about these topics, I get like fired up because I cannot deal with hypocrisy. I cannot deal with like the double standards the world applies to the Jewish people. It drives me bonkers.
It's infuriating.
Totally.
It really is.
Crazy.
Do you exercise? Do you do any sports?
No, I don't.
Zero. Do you want to work out here afterwards?
I use my thumbs. my thumbs are in good shape. But no, I truth is I love basketball, and I in my head at some point in my life I'm going to go back to playing basketball. In fact, I'm in a WhatsApp group of like a local group of people that play basketball on Saturday nights, and I've been in this group for 2 years. I've never gone once. But in my mind, I'm not leaving the group because one day I'm going to go. But I don't move right now at all, which is definitely bothers me. In fact, I alluded to this before, but we talked offline, and I said that I don't believe in bucket lists. If you want to do something, then just do it. The two things that I want to do and a work in progress that, again, never said this online. I don't know, how do you do this? You get all these secrets out of me. The two things that I think that are really kind of weighing on my soul that I really, really want to do, and I want to believe that I'll do them one day, and I don't know why I'm saying one day, not today, but is one, getting into shape, right? I just want to be in shape. I can't. Yesterday we went to check out a high school for my kids. 30 steps, and I couldn't even breathe. Right, and God, I'm a religious Jew. I'm a good person, and I try to have a relationship with God. I go to synagogue and shul on Shabbat, and whatever. I teach my kids about Judaism and Jewish values, etc. But when I was 16, I was in a summer camp, which is a very intense Torah program, and it's a very inspirational program. And I became a lot more religious, just not in a fake external way, but really I had a close relationship with God. I actually felt God in my life. And I remember thinking to myself at 16, this is the way I want to live life. And in this program, they told us, listen, when you leave this program, you're going to crash because this is not real life. Your job is to get up again, right? And I crashed, I never got up again. So now I'm 45 and I've been 46. And I've been kind of in my longing to get back to what I was then. I'm not, you asked me about Minyan. I pray in the morning, but it's why? I have no excuse not to go to Minyan. No excuse. Except for the fact that I have, wow, this is super therapeutic for me. I'm a very all or nothing kind of guy. For better or for worse. It helps me a lot professionally because I go all in on things. But if I'm not going to be all in on religion, then I have a problem going to shul, and I'm all or nothing, which is a big problem with certain things in life, right? Even buying, they take my kids, and my kids want something. I was yeah. I want to have a good, I had two kids that got a license recently, and I put insurance on my car. They take my car, and I'm buy them a car. And I bought them this car, and I'm thinking to myself, in my wildest dreams, when I was a kid, did I couldn't even enter my mind that my parents would buy me a car. Yeah. But I'm you know what, my kids, not that I had a great childhood, but I want my kids to have the best childhood in the world. But in reality, that's not the best education. They're great kids, don't get me wrong, but giving them whatever they want. My kids, there's not a thing. I ask them this often. I was is there anything in this world that you want that you don't have? No. Everything they want, they get. Literally. You want a PS5? Great. You want an Xbox? Fine. You want a car? Whatever they want, they get. It's not a good thing, but I'm all or nothing.
I'm the opposite with
really?
my kids. Yeah, my kids, they didn't have an easy childhood, and they work really hard for whatever they get, and they really appreciate everything that they have.
It's the right way to go.
Well, I don't know. That's just the fate.
It's probably
that
the
was
balance.
just fate.
The middle is the...
Yeah, for
no,
sure.
So that's all or
but
nothing.
I really think, Hillel, that if you exercise, I used to teach CrossFit. I'm very into sports.
I'm so lazy.
Up until 2 weeks ago, I was working in MADA. I was an ambulance driver for an EMT for MADA, and I quit. And one of the reasons I quit was because I hated being on the road. It just gave me so much anxiety.
In Israel, of course it did.
Yeah, it was a traumatic experience, and I've been spending the last few weeks walking outside, and I have to tell you, my soul feels free.
I hear that.
I feel like it gives me mental clarity.
Yeah,
I think I'm better in my interviews, in everything that I do.
I hear that.
It's a freeing experience. I
say,
really recommend it for you.
I
I think it would be great. And in conjunction with cannabis, of course, you can continue smoking weed. But
I listen. People, the dopamine. People who work out love it.
Yeah.
I can't even of course I've gotten a membership to the gym, and I went once. And I even hired a personal trainer. What?
Mati?
No. Yeah, Mati. Yeah. And I hired a personal trainer, and that lasted 12 seconds. I'm just,
It doesn't matter what you do. You don't have to get into any kind of different sport or whatever. Whatever you do will be good for you.
Right. I saw this meme on Facebook once that said, "Oh man, I forgot to go to the gym this morning. That makes it 46 years in a row." Listen. By the way, next interview we'll talk about it. But some of these alternative therapies, they make you question narratives in your life. And again, not going to get into it now, but after doing one of these therapies, I started to question narratives. And one of those narratives was I found myself telling myself that I'm lazy. And I'm like, Hillel, why are you telling yourself you're lazy? You do more than 99% of people. You are not lazy. What are you talking about? Wow. But in my head, throughout my whole life, I was like, you can't work out because you're lazy. And I'm like, why am I telling myself that? So it is on my list. I'm eventually
break free, Hillel.
I know.
Break free.
I don't know how Like, I hate sweating. I hate sweating. I just hate it. I don't know. I've always hated sweating. And like going to the gym and like, I can't. I got to do it. Eventually I'm going to do it. Maybe it'll be basketball. Maybe it'll be walking. Like every time I tried to run, it was torture. I hate it. But, you know,
Do you have
eventually.
an office? Or do you like work from home? Do you have an office? Do you go somewhere?
So my meetings I usually hold in cafes. And in the cafes that I go, I have my place.
Kavua.
Yeah, like if you go to Cafe Ramon in Beit Shemesh, like there's a couch that no one's allowed to sit. Like literally, it's my office. So I have that in Beit Shemesh where I live, and then I have a cafe in Sarona in Tel Aviv called Biga, which I go twice or three times a week.
Place too.
Yeah, and like literally, I have they know, they come in, they bring me my fruit shake, they know whatever. But I don't, no, not in a traditional office, because most of my time is just meeting people, you know. So, and by the way, specifically about Biga, like you sit there, you meet the most fascinating people.
Oh, yeah.
Like you'll see like literal like ministers like negotiating deals. Like in front of you, you know, like literally Bennett and Lieberman were meeting there a couple of weeks ago. Like you see like NBA players, like Omri Caspi, who's now a VC. You see like you sit there for a day, you meet the most fascinating people, you know. But I don't have an office. No.
What do you get to eat there, or do you just drink coffee?
No, so
because Biga's amazing.
I don't do coffee there. I drink coffee at home. I'm a big coffee snob. There I get a fruit shake, and I've developed this obsession lately with white. Like mushroom-based pizza, like truffle pizza. Oh my God. Like you have not lived until you've eaten truffle pizza. Like in Rimon, they have this thing, it's literally like crack cocaine, I'm not even kidding. So that's what I do. I get, if I eat, which I don't often do, but if I eat in Biga, then I'll usually get like white pizza. But oftentimes what I'll do is because I can't eat more than one meal a day since Ozempic, so I won't eat breakfast. Like I'll have a shake, and then for lunch I'll go get like a burger at Memphis Burger or at Bodega or whatever it is, and dinner I either won't eat or I'll order something, whatever it is. But I rarely eat at Biga.
What about kashrut? Are you like Badatz, Mahadrin,
Not only am I not, but I am fundamentally, like deeply, profoundly against it. Let me explain what I mean. What I mean is, and I'm not judging anybody that is
God,
super.
Hillel, you're so cool.
There are people who are very strict about, like, if you're watching, you don't know what we're talking about. Like, there's different levels of being kosher, right? And there's rabbis that are very, very strict and like very, very specific rules.
And there's super kosher.
Right, super kosher, and then there's chill kosher, right? It's kosher, like the ingredients are kosher, it's kosher. And I'm at the low end. Why? Not only because I'm lazy and I like eating good food, but because I have a philosophical problem. I really do, I'm not kidding. I have a philosophical problem with the statement that I am in the state of Israel and I'm not willing to eat the level of kashrus of rabbanut. Like the rabbis of Israel. If I told my grandmother 80 years ago that I would be in Israel, but I wouldn't trust the rabbis of Israel to eat their level of kosher, she would like smack me across the face. She'd be like, what the hell's wrong with you? Are you crazy? You've lost the plot. You've lost your way. Yeah. So like people that say, no, I'm not going to eat rabbanut, you know, I don't trust the rabbis of Jerusalem. It's like, are you insane? Do you understand what you're saying? Yes, according to strict letter of the law, if you keep stricter kosher, then but there's more to Judaism than just the letter of the law. There's the philosophy, there's theology, there's, you know, things behind it. Think what you're saying. I'm too religious to eat from the rabbis of Jerusalem. Are you insane? So I have a real problem with that. So I eat anything that's kosher, I'll eat.
Really?
Yeah, anything.
There's a real issue here, though, with the kashrut, right?
In terms of what?
With having, what are those guys called? Mashgiachs?
Mashgiach, yeah.
Mashgiach come into the restaurant and they pay them all this extra money.
You mean like corruption, you're saying?
Yeah, the corruption.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've heard that. I don't know. I mean, I know some people that work as a mashgiach and there's no corruption there, but I've heard that that's a thing.
To get a specific hechsher, you have to pay more money.
That's true. Right. Well, but that because you have to pay a person's salary to go and check out the food. Yeah. I'm saying there have been stories
to
of
bless the food.
No, it's not. So there have been stories of like bribery. I've never seen or experienced anything like that. So I can't confirm or deny. I don't know that it exists, but I do. And you know, to be clear, like relatives and friends of mine keep that level like higher strict. And I'm like, do you understand what you're saying? Like that's crazy.
It's also so expensive.
Yeah,
like it's crazy. In Canada, I have friends who are Chabad Lubavitch and they only eat Chalav Yisrael and it's so expensive.
Yeah.
Cottage
there's also that.
Chalav Yisrael. That's crazy.
Yeah, there's also that. But I'm saying philosophically, I have a real problem with it.
Wow, Hillel.
We covered a lot of ground today.
We really did, and there's a lot more to cover. There's a lot more to cover, but I just want to say it was such a cool experience meeting you. You're a really cool guy, and
thank you.
And I wish you so much luck, and thank you for all you're doing for Am Yisrael. You know, thank you so much and I just wish you a lot of success. I hope that we get out of this and that you make a really big impression
you
I
represent us.
got to tell you, we didn't talk about this. We can leave it for next episode. But I have one of my biggest challenges in life is imposter syndrome. Like you know what that is, right?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. So I've read a lot about it, and a lot of I'm not calling myself great, but a lot of great people have it. Like I read a story about two guys are at a party with like A-list celebrities, and they're standing in the corner, and they're all like awkward, and one says to the other, like, I don't really know what I'm doing here. Like these are like top celebrities of the world. Like why am I here? And then the other guy's like, me too. Like I don't know why what am I doing here? Like it's crazy. And he goes, hey, I'm David. What's your name? Neil Armstrong. Right? Like even like the greats have imposter syndrome, right? So I'm in good company. That being said, when people like stop me on the street and ask me for a selfie, I think they're pranking me. Like, why do you want a selfie with me? And like when you say to me like, and I'm not being like false, modest. Like this is a problem. It's a struggle of mine. Like people say to me, oh, thank you so much. You've changed my life, and your content makes such a. I'm like, just sit on my phone and write. Like I'm just like a normal dude, and it's a real problem. I don't want to be, I don't want to be the opposite, like with an ego. But I think, like most things, the middle, right? Like I just don't. Like I'm full, whatever. This is one of the things I work on with my therapist. Like I just, she's like, you don't see what you're doing. Like you don't look. Like you were invited to the Knesset 2 weeks ago. You got an award from the state of Israel for fighting for the state of Israel. You don't see that? I'm like, no, I know that I had that. But also I did this bad thing. Or also I'm not a good person because I didn't go to Minyan this morning. She's like, everybody has good and bad. Like, but all or nothing, right? So for me, it's so I don't see myself like other people see me at all. And it's not fake. Like some people believe like I'm faking. I'm not faking.
Hashem gave you a gift. Hashem gave you a gift, and I'm so happy to see that you're using it for good.
Yeah, one day I'll have to just internalize it without being an ego. Like, I'm gonna be an ego.
Not in a gaiva way.
Yeah.
Not in a gaiva way, but
just
you do.
Self-awareness.
But you do. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
One day.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Am Yisrael Chai.
There you go. We will dance again.
We will dance for sure. For sure.
Beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of The Dayna Show. If you like what you heard, you can subscribe to the podcast, like and share with your friends on social media, and rate us 5 stars. Don't forget to tune in next week, and we'll see you then.